I'm Jack from Jack Loves Antiques and Vintage. I get a lot of questions about how to start an antique booth into an antique mall. And I must say that I've been doing this for like 20 plus years. And there's a lot to be learned about how you get in, how you get started, and the type of merchandise. So I guess the first question is this: how do you get in to be a vendor in an antique mall? Well, one, simply go into the mall. Some malls accept vendors. Some of them are independently owned and they're the only vendor in there. And of course, you're not going to get in there. But find one that has a lot of vendors. Simply ask to be put on the waiting list or ask if they have any available booths, and experience. Most of the owners of the antique malls are going to want experienced vendors. If you haven't got any experience in this, simply take a picture of how you decorated your house, your decorating techniques. Show them that, and they can look and see that you possibly could be a good vendor. And then if they put you on a waiting list, simply wait and start looking at other antique malls. If you're from a small town, you probably only have one or two. If you live in a large city, there's lots of them. How I got started in it, I had a friend that was there, and the owner that ran the antique mall happened to be a veterinarian, and she did this part-time. I had gone to her services as a vet, and we talked, and so she invited me in. That was my first experience. But I had to show her pictures of the things I could do and the type of merchandise that I was going to sell, because she only allows certain merchandise in her store. Some of the things she did not allow. I was nervous, didn't really know what I was doing, but I did it anyway. So I went in, she assigned me a booth, we worked out the rent, the commission, and by the way, that's something that you got to consider too, is that you're going to be paying commission on your sales. That's how she makes money, besides the rent of your booth. So most antique malls will charge you 10% of the sale. And you got to take that off when you're considering your pricing. They also charge you credit card fees. Then they charge you rent. So consider all that before you go in. And then once you get your booth, you need to freshen your booth up, because probably somebody was there before, they moved, and now you're in that booth. So go in, and some owners will let you paint, some will not. Most of them will, or at least clean everything up to make it presentable and make it nice and make it attractive. So consider all of these things when you're thinking about getting into this business and want to sell antiques or vintage or whatever it is you're selling. And you got to take all of this in consideration. In my first one, I have always sold antiques and stuff like that. So I sort of knew the business right there by just visiting stores, looking around, looking at their merchandise, trying to find out who was the top seller in that mall, and looking at their booth and to see how they had it decorated, see what items that they had in there. So I set my booth up. It looked good, and I never will forget my first sale, and it excited me. So like I say, the number one thing that you've got to consider is location. Parking, you got to look at the location, and can cars park in front of the antique store, or do they have to walk to it? At one I was at, that was a very bad problem that we had there, was that people could not park in front of the store, or the spaces were taken up. So look around in your town, wherever you live, or wherever you want your mall. Look at it. Look at the malls that are there, and look at the merchandise and see if that's what you want to sell. I've seen some antique stores that just had yard sale stuff, and it really was not appeasing to me to have things that are nice placed into a mall that was just selling yard sale stuff. And you could tell by looking, and they didn't decorate, they just jammed stuff in there. The mall I'm currently at is a very nice mall. She only accepts certain style of dealers with their particular critique and items that they want to sell. So there's a lot of things that you've got to consider. And I tell you what, I'm going to make another video and we're going to talk about this a little bit further. So if you don't mind, subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. And we'll talk more about how to get started, because there's a lot of things that you need to consider. Your time, your availability of purchasing merchandise, and the time spent for all of that. So I'll see you next time. Thanks.